Hello everyone, this is Marco and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to show you how I think Mattel would have released the Raptor squad if they based it more upon the movie versions. Now the set that we got from Mattel was based on the Camp Cretaceous versions of the Raptors, which looked slightly different, except for Echo, which looks completely different. So what you're seeing on the screen right now is the set released by Mattel. It wasn't released here in the UK, so I had my good friend Viet send them over. He sent over two sets, one for me to keep as it is and the other one to modify. Taking a closer look, we can see that blue is the most accurate. Mattel put a lot of effort into getting blue right. They've had many attempts before, but this one seems to be the most perfect attack pack or wild pack or whatever they're called now of blue. As you can see, the base color is gray. She has the blue stripe surrounded by some nice white lines going all the way down the tail. She has a beige belly and her toe claws are painted. She is the only one from this set to have the toe claws painted. So the base pigment is grey. Now let's count the amount of paint apps they added. So we have 8 different paint apps. The blue stripe, the white around the blue stripe, the yellow for the eye, the black for the eye, the beige belly, the toe claws, the pink for the mouth, and the off-white for the teeth. Charlie isn't too bad. As you can see, Charlie is a bright light green with darker green stripes. No toe claw paint. She doesn't have a black pupil, and in terms of inaccuracies, the stripes should be a bit more compact, a bit thinner, definitely much darker, and there should be no striping at all on the head. To be clear, these inaccuracies are compared to the versions that we get in the film. Now let's count how many paint apps they added on this figure. So we have 5 in total. 1 is the dark stripes, 2 is the belly, 3 is the yellow eye, 4 is the pink mouth, and 5 is the off-white for the teeth. To be clear, the pigmented plastic doesn't count. Now looking at Delta, she's close. The first thing that struck me straight away was the base color is far too pale. The patterns are quite blotchy and inconsistent, but I really like seeing that they put the paint apps on the legs too. I could have definitely seen them cut corners there, but it's so nice to actually see paint on the legs. It's something that doesn't really happen very often. It doesn't surprise me that she doesn't have paint on the toe claws. She does have a belly color, which is nice, and that's pretty much it. The patterns should definitely be a bit more broken up, but also cover the whole body. She has 5 paint apps just like Charlie. Okay, well, so this Echo, right, it's like a really dark brown. It's more verging towards the red spectrum of brown. It's got a red back and it's got dark grey stripes. The belly is white-ish. She's got paint apps on the legs, again, just like Delta, and no toe claw paint. In the film, Echo is like a light brown verging towards yellow. She has teal stripes and a light grey belly. This figure in particular has 6 paint apps, 1 more than all the others except for blue. Blue's got 8. The extra paint app is that red shading going along the back. So what you're looking at right now is Charlie. This is a version of Charlie that was released way back. I think in 2019. It was the first ever version that Mattel has released of Charlie. I thought I'd bring this in because this would be the perfect candidate to become a Delta figure. As you can see, the base color is a much closer match to Delta than the other one. The patterns on the back are much closer to what we see in the film, and overall I think looks much closer to Delta than Charlie. So this for me will be the new Delta. I'm going to modify this later on in the video just to make it even more accurate. This figure was released in the Dino Rivals line, just like this Delta figure right here. When Mattel first unveiled this version of Delta, I was quite perplexed because it's got a light greeny brown, yellow brown. I don't know how to describe this color, but it is much closer to the base color of Echo. So this one is a good candidate for me to use as Echo. I'm gonna obviously change things around a bit because the patterns don't match, but it definitely looks much closer to Echo than Delta. So taking a look at the first Echo that Mattel released officially, it's this one right here. And as you can see, the base color is pretty much the same as that Delta from previously. And it's got like a greeny, almost teal-like patterns. They are a bit too bright for my liking, but this is definitely the best and the closest version to the Echo that we all know and love from the movie. As you may see, this is the Crouching Raptor sculpt, and a lot of people aren't fans of this, so I decided that my version of the Raptor squad from Mattel is going to be just a regular standing raptor instead of the crouching one. I just thought I'd bring this one up because it's the closest one that we've got. Now this one right here is the most recent from all of these. This is the Camp Cretaceous Velociraptor, and I think it would be an ideal candidate for Charlie. The base color is a bright green. I'm just going to remove all the patterns and paint my own. As soon as Mattel released this one, I thought, oh wow, that looks like Charlie. I can finally do the video that I wanted to do for a very long time. So it might sound like I'm really obsessive and I get really angry at Mattel for not releasing things as accurately as they should be, but honestly, in a children's line like this one, it's okay to get away with some inaccuracies as long as it's not blatant ones like Echo from earlier, or adult collectors lines like the Amber Collection. Now here are some of the materials I'm going to use in this video. I'm going to use IPA alcohol to rub off all of the paint apps from the figures I want to modify. Toothpicks and cotton buds will definitely help with that too. The scalpel will help me reach those more little nooks and crannies of the paint apps. The toothbrush will just brush away everything, and super glue just in case we need to glue stuff back. So I realized that the bottom jaw of Echo actually resembles more the bottom jaw of Charlie, so I decided to take that out and swap the jaws around. The color of this jaw is more like a greyy white, while this jaw right here on this Camp Cretaceous Raptor, which will become Charlie, is more yellow. That more yellow jaw actually goes really well with this Delta here, which will become Echo. There we go, look at that. It's already a massive difference and visually looks much better. We're not done yet with the jaw swapping. I'm going to swap the jaws of these figures right here, the Delta with the Charlie. All I did to remove it was heat up the top part of the head with a hairdryer, as that is softer plastic. If it gets soft enough, then it's easier to peel back and remove the jaw. The bottom jaw of this Delta figure matches really well with what we see in the film, so I'm going to use that same jaw onto this Charlie figure, which will become my new Delta figure. Talking about Charlie, I'm going to start with her. I'm going to rub off all of the original paint apps with IPA alcohol, and then paint my own patterns on with ARTEZA acrylic paint. So you might be asking, Marco, why didn't you just repaint the whole thing without rubbing off all the patterns? Just paint green all over on top of it. Well, I reply, I could have done that, but I think it looks much nicer if the base pigment stays visible. It just feels a lot more genuine and a lot more like what Mattel actually would release. So I painted thinner lines with a very dark green all the way up to the back of the head. Then I painted this belly color on, and then I painted the eyes back on. I also added paint on the toe claws. Moving on to Delta, I rubbed off all of the paint apps again with IPA alcohol, the toothbrush, cotton buds, and toothpicks. It required a lot of elbow grease because this paint is designed not to rub off in any way, shape or form. Then we're left with just the base color. So then I added the belly color matching it to the jaw that we swapped over earlier. Then I added the dark green patterns. So the aim of this project is to pretty much put as much effort in as Mattel put on their blue figures. So keeping all of the figures from this set to the same standard. That would mean that all of the other figures would have roughly the same amount of paint apps as blue. That includes the black for the pupil and the toe claw colors. So the reason why Mattel chooses not to add as many paint apps as they probably could or should is it makes things cheaper. The less paint apps there are, the whole product becomes cheaper to make, which saves them money, which is completely understandable. So I've seen sometimes Mattel has actually managed to design their figures around this and went about it very cleverly, like using the same paint app or same color of some patterns on the body as the eye color, which gets rid of one extra paint app that would have been for the eye if it was, say, yellow or something else. The more paint apps on a figure, the more expensive it is to make. The less paint apps, the cheaper it gets. I should probably mention that apps stands for application, so paint application. Another example is you might have noticed that sometimes Mattel doesn't paint the pupil black and leave the background color. If the background color behind the eye color, let's say the eye color is yellow and behind the eye color it's like a dark green or a dark blue or even black, they don't bother adding an extra paint app to paint the pupil in, which is a very clever way of keeping the figure cheaper to make, but also conveying the same effect that a pupil would have. Sometimes they like to push that to the limit, which makes things actually look cheaper. So the darker the color behind the eye color is, the better. In an ideal world, they would paint the pupil black every time, but that's just not possible sometimes. Anyway, what you can see right now is me adding the color on the toenails. I've used the same exact color for the toe claws on every single figure. Moving on to Echo, I did the same exact steps as before, rubbing off all of the paint apps and then applying my own. I would like to apologize for not having released this video any earlier. I was planning to release it earlier than this, but it was a lot of work and I don't really like talking in my videos much, so I had to build up the strength and willpower to actually record myself to talk. I just want to point out how much of a difference getting rid of all the patterns and seeing the base color actually makes. This already looks like Echo without adding any paint apps on it. Just imagine how much nicer it will look with all the correct paint apps too. So let's not waste time and get straight to it. Just like before, I started by color matching the belly color with the jaw and I brushed that on. Then I mixed the correct color for the striping and the patterns, and I made a dark teal and applied it all over the figure. So on Echo, the pattern design that I went for closely resembles the one that I used for Delta. On all of these figures, I actually went and painted the patterns on the tail too, which is what Mattel did with Blue. I also painted the thighs on the figures that required it. So Delta and Echo. Charlie doesn't seem to have any dark striping on the legs, so I just left that one blank. I'm also not going overboard with the amount of paint apps because I want to keep this as faithful to what Mattel could release or would have released if they put the same amount of effort as they did with Blue. I already did a more realistic repaint on the Mattel figures quite a while back actually now. It was probably in 2018 or 2019, but I repainted the Battle Damage Velociraptor Blue and I painted them all to make them resemble the Raptor squad from the film. So if you instead want to watch a more realistic approach to the colors, I recommend you go and watch that video too. I'll add a card on the screen right now if I remember. If I don't remember, then good luck, because it's in one of my playlists somewhere. I'll try my best to remember to put the card on the screen. So there we go, finishing touches. I'm painting the toe claws and they're all done. I did apply some satin lacquer over them just to protect the paint so it doesn't rub off. And here we go. A Mattel Raptor squad with all the correct colors and with standing poses. I did not touch Blue at all. She has 8 paint apps and she's fine as she is. Charlie has 7 paint apps, 1 less than Blue, and is totally doable by Mattel. This Delta is probably one of my favorites from them all. She has 7 paint apps just like Charlie. I wish Mattel would release an Echo just like this one. I didn't add the scar on the snout because I figured Mattel probably wouldn't either. So it's nothing crazy, it's doable by Mattel. They've all got the same if not less amount of paint apps as Blue. So this is my dream Raptor squad by Mattel and I'm really happy with it.
I would like to give a massive thank you to all of my Patreons. Seriously guys, your support really does mean the world to me, as it helps me do what I love for you. You help me buy materials, and most of all, you give me a helping hand with improving the quality of the content of my videos. Even if it's just a small donation, every little helps. If you like my videos, please press the like button. And you could consider subscribing. It's free. Oh, and don't forget to press the notification bell button, because you don't want to miss any of my new stuff, right? I'm gonna say bye now, because when you gotta go, you gotta go. I will see you in the next one.